What's going on, everybody? Joshua Cook here with VYPE Media. I am now joined by a special guest of mine, a guy I used to work for up in Lubbock, Texas, Chris Level, publisher of Red Raider Sports, co-host of Tech Talk 3 to 6 on Double T 97.3, sideline reporter for Texas Tech football, and color analyst for Texas Tech men's basketball. I mean, Chris, is there anything you don't do? I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know about that. I just try to stay in my lane. But yeah, whenever it's football or basketball season, I'm very busy. So, and I wish I was busier right now than I am. But that's the situation we've all been put in.
Exactly. NFL draft going on. Exciting night for one of the Red Raiders. Jordan Brooks gets taken 27th overall by the Seattle Seahawks. Did you see Brooks being a first-round pick, or did that kind of surprise you a little bit?
Probably some mild surprise. His agent is Eric Burkhart, and he reps Cliff and Danny Amendola and several other Red Raiders. We had Jordan on our radio show about a week or so ago, and I think Eric had kind of felt like there was a decent chance that you started to see some mock drafts where he kind of was hinted at possible late first rounder, but you're just not sure what to believe this time of year. So I didn't think that's what would happen, but it wasn't just a complete shock. And it sounds like from when you watched the broadcast last night, one of the first things they said was that a lot of coaches were telling people, get him out of your mock draft. They were trying to keep him a secret and not have his stock blow up a little bit. What's interesting about the Seahawks situation, though, is that, Coach Wells, he coached or was on the staff when Bobby Wagner at Utah State was there. The Seahawks drafted Bobby Wagner, who is a phenomenal six-time Pro Bowler, great linebacker. He's still in Seattle playing for a lot of money. And that whenever Coach Wells would get these phone calls, that's what he would tell people, like, this is who this guy reminds me of. And turns out Jordan Brooks ends up getting drafted higher than Bobby Wagner was. So if Brooks can end up being a six-time, a six-time Pro Bowler, then I think, he will have done well. But he just got better and better and better as the year went on, and really as his career went on. So it was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, Jordan Brooks, of course, is from Stratford High School, which is here in Houston. It's a high school that Andrew Luck is from. He becomes the fourth guy to be taken into the NFL out of that high school. When he arrived on campus, do you remember early on, like, seeing some glimmers here and there of where, hey, this guy could be an NFL star one day?
Yeah, NFL star, I'm not sure about that, but I just wasn't. But I mean, he could just run. That's the thing. Is like he was no nonsense. He could just flat out burn it. And I think the coaching change this year really helped him. Somebody like Keith Patterson kind of turned him loose, and they played a lot more aggressive. And I think that suited Jordan's ability quite a bit to be able to just use that speed and just kind of free flowing and he wasn't, pent up, and it wasn't where he had too much going on his plate where he could just kind of read and react. And so they kind of catered the system around Jordan and allowed those guys to like turn it loose, and it paid off. It's fascinating to watch his stock just go up and up and up as the weeks of the season went along.
Was there a moment this season?
Hey, Josh, hit pause. My internet, guys.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so, we mentioned at the open of this that you are a sideline reporter for Texas Tech football, so you get to see these guys down on the field throughout the year. Was there a moment this year where Jordan Brooks made a play or a big moment where you're just like, hey, this guy is the real deal right now on the defensive side of the ball?
I don't know, Josh. There's like one play. I think it's what made him so fun is that it was so consistent. And he, it's not like he made these plays that would change the game or win you a game. The Red Raiders were in a lot of close games. They couldn't quite get over the hump. But, I mean, you're talking 11, 12, 13, 14 tackles a game all throughout. And, like, he only played 11 games because he missed the last regular season game because he had a shoulder issue and you were out of bowl game contention. He drives up on his own to meet the team on Thanksgiving holiday to be with them in Austin after he was kind of clearly focused on the next step and no bowl game to go to. I thought that was fairly interesting. But 20 tackles for a loss, okay, 20 tackles for a loss in just 11 games, led the Big 12, maybe have led the country. I'm not sure, but so to me, it was about, and where I really started to get a feel for like what was happening is I would meet with Coach Wells and Coach Patterson and Coach Yost as the weeks would go along during the season for part of my job. And they would just talk about the amount of calls from scouts and player personnel guys, and those would ramp up every week. And every time I would leave one of those meetings, Jordan would be in there waiting to he would, wait to meet with Coach Patterson to go over the game plan. It was just like doing some of the things that just by himself in there. And you just kind of, but I at the time, I'm not thinking this is a first round guy. That's elite company. It's the highest ranked defensive player that Texas Tech has had since 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And I, sometimes you're just so close to it, you don't really understand. I mean, I never thought Pat Mahomes, as I'm watching him here, would end up being the the NFL MVP and the Super Bowl winner, right? I mean, you just don't. It's like fairy tale stuff, but that's what happened. And these guys are good and all that, but you just don't know how it stacks up when they get to the next level. But I think to answer your question though, it was the consistency that impressed me the most. But mainly, it's just because he could flat out run. Guys that are 6'1", 6 foot, whatever, about 240, they're not supposed to move like that. And Jordan could track people down. And in this league, you're going to be put in space. You're going to be going against some elite skill and good coaching that are going to try to take you out of the game. And yet he was still able to make plays very consistently.
And, I think it's neat. I mentioned your publisher of Red Raider Sports, which is a recruiting site there up in Lubbock. It covers Texas Tech recruiting. So you kind of start talking to these guys at an early age, like when they're in high school, when they're just interested in Texas Tech. So you've known Jordan for a while. How happy are you just for him as a person, his family, to have this opportunity, this life-changing opportunity to go to the NFL?
Very. You're right. You get to build a unique relationship with him. And I think that a lot of times in jobs like ours, you see kids at their very best and you see kids at their worst at times. But Jordan is a guy, the way he's wired, he's all about business, always has been. He doesn't say a whole lot. He's very focused, very driven. I think what was fun to watch is that, 2 years ago, Dakota Allen is here, and he's probably a slightly better college player at the time. And he really takes Jordan under his wing. And, Jordan kind of looked up to Dakota. And then when Dakota was drafted and went through the process of training camp and got cut by a team, picked up by another, and all those things, you're watching that knowledge get passed down. And so, watching Jordan kind of do that thing with Rico Jeffers, who will be expected to be like a main guy on this year's team, it's just funny watching the ball roll downhill. But Jordan, it's funny watching him just kind of soak up as much, but then also, in turn, understanding responsibility. I've got to turn around and pass that along, but to somebody younger than me. But he's just he's all about business. He's not a rah-rah guy. He doesn't say a whole lot. He's not, the guy, when he speaks, he doesn't have to say a whole lot. He's going to get some folks' attention, specifically because of how good he plays. But you're right, fairly lightly recruited. I mean, I think University of Houston and Texas Tech were kind of the main offers he had out of high school, at least in the state of Texas. And yet he's a first-round draft pick by Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, it's just fascinating watching a guy's story and dreams come true like that. And you're right next to it and watching it. But I'm telling you, Keith Patterson and this coaching change and the scheme change really benefited Jordan, and he certainly did his part to put himself in this position.
Yeah, it must have been, a fun night for Coach Wells. Of course, Matt Wells was at Utah State before coming to Texas Tech. He had his quarterback taken by the Green Bay Packers, which sent some shockwaves through the NFL. And then, of course, he gets Jordan Brooks taken. So, and another, you mentioned Pat Mahomes earlier, another first-round pick for the Red Raider football program, 2 of those in the last 3 years. What does this do for Matt Wells moving forward when you start talking about recruiting and he can start naming guys like Pat Mahomes and Jordan Brooks and Dakota Allen and guys like that?
Yeah. It has to help from a recruiting standpoint, because it's like, hey, you come here, we'll get you to where you want to go. And most guys have those dreams. I tell you what, something else too, not just Jordan Love, but David Yost. He was at Oregon and he coached Justin Herbert as well, before he went to Utah State a year or 2 ago. So he had a part in Justin Herbert, who was a first rounder, and then Jordan Love. And so, you're going to use that from a quarterback standpoint. Obviously, Pat Mahomes, you're going to use that. But then the Jordan Brooks thing, long time since it's been a defensive guy that drafted that high for Texas Tech. So, and you just look from Texas Tech standpoint. I mean, you're starting to churn them out in the first round in basketball. Josh Young, baseball was a top 10 pick last year. Mm-hmm. So I think that, these coaches all use that, even the other sports stuff, to say, don't tell me about you can't recruit to Lubbock, Texas. I mean, we can recruit here. You're going to succeed. We're going to win, and then we can put you where you want to go here in Lubbock. So it's just kind of fun to watch that across the board. And I mean, Brittany Brewer, WNBA draft last week, second rounder, which is a fairly high pick. So anyway, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Texas Tech, covering Texas Tech athletics, you would hear that a lot. You can't recruit to Lubbock. You can't do this. And every coach would address it. Every new coach would come in and be like, yes, I can recruit to Lubbock. And not only have they done a great job recruiting to Lubbock, Herbie Hokut, the athletic director, has done a great job improving the facilities, new indoor track facility, new indoor football facility. The stadium has gotten some upgrades. We've seen it with baseball and softball across the board. So mentioning recruiting, we got to talk to you about a little Texas Tech recruiting class of 2021. Recruiting has not slowed down. These guys continue to get offers from the Houston area. Red Raiders pick up a commitment from Mason Tharp, the tight end out of Klein. How big is that for Texas Tech and to get that tight end?
They love him. I mean, so what happens is Jed Castles, a young man out of Wichita Falls, plays the same position. He commits, and I think they had kind of planned on we need two at this spot because this is a brand, as you know, you covered this program many years. They didn't usually run with a tight end. This is a fairly new principle here, so there's not a lot on campus at all. Mm-hmm. And Dante Thompson was a senior last year, and he played 80% of the snaps, give or take, and he graduates. So you've got to really load this position up. You've got to, fill it up. You got to, develop and all those things. And so it's tricky when you want to take two in the same class at that. But it's like trying to take two quarterbacks. But I think what they told Mason all along, no matter what else we take, we want you. You're part of this deal. So whenever Jed Castles out of Wichita Falls Rider makes that decision, I mean, it's as much as about talking to Mason Tharp about, hey, don't let this scare you. We've got to have multiple guys. We don't have much on campus right now at all. But I just, a couple of 6'6", 6'7" types that with great hands, and I know Tharp was extremely well thought of internally. But I mean, also just look at his offer list. This is a guy that so many folks wanted, and he's a great kid. His position coach, I believe, is a Texas Tech alum, which doesn't hurt Texas Tech's chances, and probably helps Matt Wells and staff and Luke Wells. Luke is obviously the position coach at that tight end spot, inside receivers. So yeah, it was a really good week a couple of weeks ago when they got both tight ends. They ended up with an offensive tackle last week. So that they've been, and then this week it's been the defensive ends that they've been adding. So, but yeah, to answer your question, couldn't be more excited about Mason Tharp. Big time get.
Yeah, you mentioned tight ends at Texas Tech. The last big-time tight end I remember is Jay Samaro when he was at Texas Tech running people over. Of course, he got taken to the NFL and things like that. That's the last big-time tight end I remember at Texas Tech. Houston-wise, do you see any other big-time targets that the Red Raiders are going to try to come down to H-Town and come get? I know Texas Tech has always cherished the Houston market to try and get some guys out of here to come to Lubbock.
Yeah, I don't know if I know too many specifics right now, but I mean they're recruiting the Metroplex, they're recruiting Houston, they're recruiting the state of Oklahoma, that they're dipping into Louisiana a little bit, but there's a and it's funny because when Coach Wells got this job, I think a lot of people's concern is, okay, recruiting is our biggest problem here. We need the talent, and we've got to be able to develop guys. We're hiring a guy from Utah State. I mean, he doesn't know the state of Texas. Well, Matt Wells is originally from Oklahoma. They've recruited the state of Texas for years. So is Luke, Luke Wells. They've recruited the state of Texas easily the last 10 or 15 years. So all these relationships, were already built. But as they will tell you, when you have a double T on your shirt when you're walking in there, it's a little bit different than when you have a U.S. on your shirt from Utah State. You're recruiting an in-state school and a Big 12 school and all those things. So I know that, and I'll tell you that Taj Brooks is a guy that he's already signed, obviously, but that's a guy they are extremely high on. I can't wait to get him up here because he should be able to hit the ground running. I believe he's from down in that Houston area.
Yeah, I think he played at Spring High School.
Yes.
And He was a big running back. I remember, I think there was one game I covered when he was in the playoffs. I think he rushed for like 200 yards or something.
Yeah, well, he's going to – I mean, there's only
like
one scholarship running back up here right now, Sir Roderick Thompson. So Taj Brooks will step in here and get carries from day one. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to recruit Houston for another running back or two in this next class as well.
I guess before we let you go, as you look towards next football season, I know right now it's kind of crazy because we don't know when the guys are going to be able to get back on campus, when there could be fall training, when the season could start. What kind of do you think Texas Tech football will look like as we go into the Matt Wells era for the second year as he continues to build year after year?
It's funny because you asked me about recruiting too. What's fascinating about their situation is that, we're not sure when they're going to resume, or when anybody's going to resume, but they're not even done with their 2020 class, which is obviously the previous class. And I say that because they were probably looking to add about 5 to 7 grad transfer types this spring to join the team this summer. And that still needs to take place. I mean, I don't remember how many – I know there's like 700 guys in the basketball transfer portal. I don't remember how many guys there are from a football standpoint, but they needed a running back. They needed a couple of safeties. So all that, I had Coach Wells on the show about 3 weeks ago when all this stuff kind of first hit, and he was like, we've got all these visits set up in these coming weekends for these grad transfers because we're still wanting to add to our class from this past year. So, their roster is not totally complete. I think it's all based on Alan Bowman staying healthy. It's all about winning close games. And as Coach Wells will tell you, there's no quick fixes, but we've got to continue to set our culture and what we are about. But you've got to figure out a way to win close games. And they lost, I think, 5 of them last year by a touchdown or less. It was just gut-wrenching and like the death by 1,000 paper cuts because you just can't quite get over the hump. And you have a bad call in Waco where it was a game that you probably were in a position or should have won, and you get a weird call on a fumble that was a fumble that was called not a fumble, was called an illegal snap, and you end up losing to Baylor in Waco. But if that changes, maybe the season looks a little bit different. So I'm kind of fascinated to see. But I mean, really, I just want games again. I just want sports again. I'm not going to get too caught up in results right now. I just want to see us get back to normal and everybody's safe and all that. But it's just crazy time we're in right now because nobody knows.
Yeah, I think I would take a spring practice right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's why the draft was so fun because it was like real sports. It's like sports stuff is going on. I mean, there's emotion involved, and like you're watching, good things, bad things, whatever. But it was like it's sports, and that's why we all love it so much. But yeah, you're right. I mean, after the draft is over, you're not sure what the next thing you're going to get is. But be interested to see the timetable on everything. But you're right. I would take a practice as well.
I think everyone will. I know it's been a lot of fun for you. I know you got to go to you got to be at the national championship game last year in men's basketball. I know Red Raider fans. I'm still a little heartbroken about that. I'm not gonna lie, but we
probably always will be. That's just part of it. Yeah.
But as I told my wife at the time, I said, if you would have told me back in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, when I was there at Texas Tech, Texas Tech would be playing for a national championship in men's basketball in a few years, I don't know if I would have believed you. But Chris Beard did a phenomenal job at Texas Tech. And also basketball recruiting. And you talk about that, Duncanville, he's got a good guy coming from Duncanville High School, and Micah
Peavy. Yeah.
He's down here in Houston. We got to see him before him and his dad moved up to Duncanville. And that's a big get for them as well on the basketball side.
Yeah, I mean, Beard's they're going to be top 15 preseason next year. Even if Jemias Ramsey leaves, I mean, they're still going to be based on what they have coming in. And again, like the grad transfer part of it, I mean, he's still looking to add another player or two to his roster during this process because their roster is not yet complete and put together yet. It's fun because you talk about recruiting to Lubbock. Chris Beard doesn't want to hear anything about that. Like, you want to play Kentucky? Let's do it. You want to play Duke in the Garden? Let's do it. You want to play Gonzaga in Phoenix, which is what they're going to do this coming season? Let's do it. I mean, he's not scared, and he's got big time aspirations, and he's turned this thing around. And now the expectations have certainly changed. But it's been fun to watch him build it because he speaks things into truth. When he takes the job and he sits up there at the podium, he talks about, I'm going to get this team to the Final Four, and I'm going to coach on a Monday night. Those are dreams. And you're thinking, no way. It's just this program's too far off. And in 3 short years, he gets it done.
I remember when Tim Tadlock took over as the head baseball coach, he sat up at that podium and he said, I'm gonna get this program to Omaha. We're gonna go play in the College World Series in one, two, three. I can't even remember the amount of times they made the trip to Omaha now. So
yeah, 3 out of the last 5 years. Yeah, and now the next step for them is they want to stay around a little bit longer and try to push through, maybe try to win the whole thing. But yeah, it's just crazy the run that Tadlock and Beard are on right now, and that's what Wells is trying to get to, and that's what it inspires. It's inspirational because I think he looks around campus and goes, "These guys are like winning at the highest level, so we can too."
Yeah, and not only that, I think Wes Kitley and the Texas Tech team, they won a national championship recently as well. So a lot of winning going on in Lubbock.
Yeah, that's right. Been a fun time. That's why it sucks that all the sports are shut down, because the springtime, that's when a lot of the winning went on last year. And all the spring sports and everything, they were just rolling, and then now all that's shut down. So it's kind of frustrating.
Well, we will get hopefully back to normal here in Jones AT&T Stadium. Will be full and rocking and rolling, and I can tell you from experience, a Saturday night game in Lubbock, Texas, no opponent wants to walk into that stadium.
You're right. You got to get that home field advantage back for sure.
For sure. Well, he is Chris Level. He is the publisher of Red Raider Sports and works with Texas Tech men's basketball and football on the radio broadcast as well. Chris, I appreciate the time. It's always good talking Red Raider Sports with you.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. You do a good job, man. Keep hope alive down there in H-Town, and we'll talk to you soon.